At 11:52 p.m., a 7-line text message transmitted from a mobile number registered in Beirut to a number in Tehran. The message was not encrypted. It was written in Farsi, using common language, and would have appeared to any casual reader as a personal communication between family members discussing a medical appointment scheduled for the following Thursday. The NSA collection infrastructure monitoring this specific mobile number pair had been accumulating traffic for 6 months. In 6 months, 23 messages had been transmitted, all apparently domestic and personal, all in common language, all structurally unremarkable. The 24th message, at 11:52 p.m., was structurally identical to the previous 23. What was different was 3 characters embedded in the message's 7th line that did not conform to the linguistic pattern of the surrounding text. The deviation was subtle, a word choice that was grammatically correct but contextually unusual, followed by a specific punctuation sequence that a native speaker would more likely have written differently. By itself, the deviation would have been a linguistic curiosity. Cross-referenced against the phrase frequency database compiled from the previous 23 messages, it was a statistical outlier at 97.4% confidence. The automated system flagged it as a possible steganographic signal at 11:53 p.m. and queued it for analyst review. Steganographic communication, concealing a message within a larger, apparently innocuous carrier, is not a new technique. Its history runs from ancient Greece through World War II invisible inks to modern digital watermarking. In digital text communication, the carrier is the message's visible content. The hidden signal is embedded through character selection, word choice, punctuation, spacing, or specific phrase patterns that appear natural to a casual reader, but encode a separate meaning to a reader with the decoding key. The difficulty in detecting text steganography is that legitimate human communication is inherently variable. People make unusual word choices, they use punctuation inconsistently, they write differently in different contexts. A statistical deviation in text is not inherently a signal. It is a candidate. The distinction between a candidate and a signal requires a baseline. 6 months of traffic from the same mobile number pair had built the baseline. 23 messages had established the linguistic patterns, the vocabulary range, the sentence structure preferences, the punctuation habits, the phrase frequency distribution of the writer. The 24th message deviated from those patterns in 2 specific locations, both in the 7th line. The deviation was not dramatic. A native speaker who had not been reading the previous 23 messages would not have noticed it. The system that had been reading all 23 and had been specifically calibrated to detect statistical outliers in this writer's established patterns noticed it in 41 seconds. The analyst who reviewed it at 11:59 p.m. had been assigned to Hezbollah Communications Analysis for 31 months. She had been the analyst who, 14 months earlier, had identified the same mobile number pair as a possible Hezbollah to IRGC coordination channel, based on metadata analysis of its contact network. That identification had generated the collection priority that had accumulated 6 months of traffic. The 6 months of traffic had produced the phrase frequency baseline that made the 11:52 p.m. message's deviation visible at 97.4%. She elevated it at 12:01 a.m., possible steganographic signal, Hezbollah IRGC channel, 97.4% confidence. Content analysis underway. The content analysis extracting the embedded signal from the text using the decoding key that the collection architecture had reconstructed from previous traffic patterns, produced a decoded message at 12:09 a.m. The decoded content was 11 words in operational format. No punctuation, no context. Execute Protocol 7. Thursday, 0200, target Haifa Port Logistics Coordinator. 8 minutes of decoding. 11 words. A name the collection had seen before. The logistics coordinator reference had appeared in 3 previous intercepts over 14 months, each time in a context that the analytical team had associated with Hezbollah's port disruption planning for northern Israel's logistics infrastructure. Haifa Port was Israel's primary northern commercial and military logistics terminal, the facility through which a significant portion of defense resupply and commercial goods transited to northern Israel. Disrupting its operations would produce both logistical and economic effects on Israel's northern military posture. Protocol 7 was not a defined term in any Hezbollah operational document the intelligence community had recovered, but the word protocol, combined with a numerical designator, was a format that had appeared in 2 previous recovered Hezbollah operational orders, both of which had been pre-operation activation codes for specific cell-level actions. The Thursday 0200 timing was specific, 78 hours from the 11:52 p.m. intercept time. The analyst transmitted the full assessment at 12:14 a.m. Decoded content assessed as operational activation. Haifa Port assessed as primary target. Timing, Thursday 0200. Method unknown. Confidence assessment, medium-high. Recommend immediate coordination with Israeli partners and Haifa Port Security. The coordination with Israeli intelligence partners was initiated at 12:18 a.m. The Israeli partner response arrived at 12:31 a.m. The logistics coordinator named in the intercept was a known individual in the Haifa Port Security Registry, employed in a senior coordination role, with a personal history that Israeli domestic security had been aware of for 7 years, but had not previously elevated to active monitoring. The intercept had changed that assessment immediately. Israeli domestic security placed the individual under continuous physical surveillance at 12:45 a.m. They were still at their residence at 12:45 a.m. No movement. Thursday, 0200 was 78 hours away. The question was whether the intercept had identified the target of the operation or whether the logistics coordinator was the method, a person inside Haifa Port who would facilitate access for another element of the operation. A Hezbollah operation against Haifa Port logistics could take multiple forms: a direct physical attack on infrastructure, a vehicle-borne device timed for the port's high-activity shift, a cyber intrusion into the port's automated cargo management system, or a facilitated entry by an operational team through credentials provided by the logistics coordinator. Each of these required a different protective response. The uncertainty about method was the central problem at 12:31 a.m. The intercept had provided timing, target, and a potential facilitator. It had not provided method. Method determined the appropriate response. CENTCOM transmitted the assessment to the full analytical team at 12:35 a.m. Characterized the operational method based on Protocol 7, logistics coordinator's access level at Haifa Port, and historical Hezbollah operational patterns against similar targets. The analytical response arrived in 3 tranches over the next 4 hours. The first tranche, at 1:14 a.m., addressed historical patterns. Hezbollah's previous port area operations in Lebanon had used a mix of direct action and facilitated access. The three most recent operations against maritime logistics infrastructure had all used facilitators inside the target facility to provide either access credentials or timing information about low coverage windows. This pattern elevated the probability that the logistics coordinator was a facilitator rather than a target. The second tranche, at 2:07 a.m., addressed the logistics coordinator's access profile. Israeli partner reporting confirmed the individual had administrative access to the port's automated cargo management system, scheduling authority for night shift operations, and physical access to 7 of the port's 11 secured zones. This was not the access profile of someone being targeted. This was the access profile of someone who could create a window. The third tranche, at 3:22 a.m., addressed Protocol 7 specifically. U.S. Cybercom reported a pattern in Hezbollah's past communications that used protocol with numerals to designate pre-planned operational templates, historical recovery of protocols. 3 and 6 from separate operations had produced documents describing specific cell activation procedures. Protocol 7 had not been recovered in any previous collection, but the numerical sequencing suggested it was a planned template in the same series. Based on the target type and facilitator access profile, the analytical assessment was that Protocol 7 was most likely a facilitated entry operation. A small team with credentials provided or enabled by the logistics coordinator. By 3:22 a.m., the characterization picture was specific enough to generate a protective action recommendation. The logistics coordinator was the key. If the coordinator could not provide credentials or access, Protocol 7 could not function as designed. The protective action was not to apprehend the coordinator before Thursday. That would signal to Hezbollah that the intercept had been read and would compromise the collection channel and the decoder key that had taken 6 months to reconstruct. The protective action was to alter the port's access architecture in a way that rendered the coordinator's specific access capabilities irrelevant, without appearing to do so in response to specific intelligence. The Israeli Port Security Authority received the recommendation at 4 a.m. with a cover rationale that attributed the security change to a scheduled system audit rather than specific intelligence. The cover rationale was important. If Hezbollah's cell observed the security change and assessed it as a response to the 11:52 p.m. message, they would know the message had been read and the channel had been compromised. A compromised channel produces a behavior change on the adversary's part. They move to new communication methods, new phone numbers, new operational patterns, and 6 months of baseline collection becomes worthless. Preserving the channel's viability required that any protective action appear to be exactly what it claimed to be. The scheduled maintenance update was genuinely overdue by 6 weeks. Port WAN-T records confirmed the audit request had been submitted in early September and had been deferred twice for operational scheduling reasons. Implementing it now, in response to an intelligence intercept but with the appearance of a routine administrative action, was operationally clean. No observer of the port security systems would see anything inconsistent with the documented audit history. The port's automated cargo management system underwent the update at 6 a.m. on Tuesday, 2 days before the Thursday target window. The update included a credential rotation that invalidated all existing administrative access tokens and issued new ones through a reauthentication process that required in-person biometric verification. The logistics coordinator completed the reauthentication process on Tuesday afternoon and received a new credential token. The new credential token had a modified access scope. The 7 secured zones the coordinator had previously accessed had been reduced to 4 in the reauthentication process, a change documented as a standard scope review associated with the credential rotation, applied to 12 other employees in the same administrative tier simultaneously. The change was not targeted. It applied to an entire job classification. The 3 zones removed from the coordinator's access were specifically the 3 zones that provided direct physical access to the night shift operations area and the cargo management server room. The protocol could not use credentials the coordinator did not have. The coordinator's access had been reduced without the coordinator being aware that the reduction was protective rather than administrative. Hezbollah's cell, assuming the coordinator's original access remained intact, would find on Thursday at 0200 that the credentials provided did not open the doors they needed to open. Thursday, 0200 arrived. Israeli domestic security had maintained continuous physical surveillance on the logistics coordinator from 12:45 a.m. Monday through Thursday. At 1:34 a.m. Thursday, the coordinator left their residence and drove toward Haifa port. At 1:47 a.m., the vehicle stopped at a location 400 meters from the port's secondary access gate. At 1:51 a.m., the coordinator made a voice call of 11 seconds duration to a number that surveillance had not previously recorded. At 1:54 a.m., the coordinator drove to the secondary access gate and presented credentials. The credentials were accepted. The new token was valid. The coordinator entered the port. At 2:01 a.m., 2 individuals who had approached the secondary access gate on foot at 1:57 a.m., not with the coordinator, presented their own credentials. The credentials were in the format consistent with port contractor access. They were not on the current contractor authorization roster. The gate security system rejected the credentials at 2:01 a.m. The 2 individuals remained at the gate for 19 seconds. At 2:02 a.m., they withdrew from the gate and moved to a vehicle parked 80 meters from the gate entrance. Israeli domestic security teams who had been positioned in the area since 1 a.m. observed the approach, the credential rejection, and the withdrawal. The 2 individuals who had approached the gate did not reach any port infrastructure. Their credentials had not worked because the access architecture had been modified. The modification had been administrative cover for targeted protective change. The targeted protective change had been based on 11 words decoded from a 7-line message transmitted at 11:52 p.m. 4 days earlier. At 2:04 a.m., the 2 individuals entered their vehicle. Israeli security teams followed at distance. At 2:11 a.m., the vehicle was stopped at a checkpoint 3 kilometers from the port by Israeli security forces who had coordinated the checkpoint timing to appear routine. Both individuals were detained for document verification, a legal basis for the stop that did not reveal the intelligence basis for the checkpoint. The vehicle search produced materials consistent with operational planning documents, credential production equipment, and communications devices. The detention was escalated immediately. The logistics coordinator who had entered the port at 1:54 a.m. was detained by port security at 2:19 a.m. on a preliminary basis related to the credential irregularities associated with the contractor access attempt. The coordinator had not been involved in the credential attempt. Israeli security had assessed the coordinator as a facilitator of access rather than a participant in the operational element, and the assessment appeared consistent with the coordinator's movements inside the port between 1:54 a.m. and 2:19 a.m., which showed no direct contact with any operational element. The coordinator's detention was converted from preliminary to formal at 3:07 a.m., when communications found on the detained individual's devices were assessed as consistent with the 11:52 p.m. intercept's operational chain. In the NSA collection facility, where the 24th message had been flagged at 11:53 p.m., the analyst, who had elevated the intercept at 12:01 a.m., closed her assessment log at 4:15 a.m. Thursday, after confirmation of the detentions had reached her queue. The assessment log ran from 11:59 p.m. Monday to 4:15 a.m. Thursday, 78 hours and 16 minutes from initial review to operational outcome. The log's final entry was a confidence assessment update, Protocol 7, assessed as confirmed facilitated access operation. Outcome: operational element detained before infrastructure access. Facilitator in custody. Collection channel and decoder. Key status: still viable. Operation concluded before Hezbollah could assess whether intercept had been compromised. The collection channel was still viable. The decoder key was still valid. The mobile number pair that had transmitted 24 messages over 6 months was still being monitored. Whatever message it transmitted next would be read. The analyst logged this status at 4:16 a.m. and submitted her recommendation to the post-operation review. Maintain collection. Do not act on the next intercept in a way that reveals the decoder key has been reconstructed. The protective action methodology, administrative cover for targeted security changes, had preserved the channel. Preserving the channel was worth more than any single operation it might reveal. The recommendation was forwarded. The collection continued. At Haifa port, the cargo management system completed its normal night shift operations from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. without incident. The automated scheduling system processed 47 cargo movements in that window. The night shift coordinator who had managed those movements was not the logistics coordinator in custody. Their replacement had been briefed at 1:45 a.m. that a supervisory absence had been planned for that night. The shift ran normally. The automated system logged 47 cargo movements, each with a standard timestamp. The 47th was logged at 5:47 a.m. The port opened to daytime operations at 6 a.m. Time from intercept transmission to operational outcome: 78 hours, 2 minutes. Intelligence chain. 24th message flagged automated 11:53 p.m. Analyst review 11:59 p.m. Elevation 12:01 a.m. Decoded 12:09 a.m. Assessment transmitted 12:14 a.m. Israeli coordination initiated 12:18 a.m. Coordinator identified 12:31 a.m. Method characterization completed 3:22 a.m. Protective action recommendation 4 a.m. Port access modification implemented 6 a.m. Tuesday. Protective action: port credential rotation and access scope reduction executed as scheduled maintenance cover. Coordinators' access to 3 critical zones removed without targeted appearance. 2 operational elements at gate at 2:01 a.m. Credentials rejected. Withdrawal observed. Interdiction at 2:11 a.m. Operational outcome: 2 operationally linked individuals detained by Israeli security at 2:11 a.m. Logistics coordinator detained by port security at 2:19 a.m. Formally at 3:07 a.m. Port infrastructure undamaged. Port operations uninterrupted. Intelligence collection status: channel viable. Decoder key intact. Hezbollah did not receive operational feedback indicating intercept compromise. Monitoring continues. U.S. and Israeli personnel losses 0. The operation had not generated a single kinetic event. No aircraft, no missiles, no phalanx. A 7-line text message, 6 months of baseline, 11 words of decoded content, 78 hours of analysis and protective action, and 2 individuals at a gate at 2:01 a.m. whose credentials did not work because a scheduled maintenance update had been implemented 2 days earlier. The port was open, the cargo was moving, the collection was running. The 25th message on the monitored mobile number pair would be read when it arrived. Whatever it contained, the decoder key would process it. The baseline had been 6 months in building. It would keep building. The system was patient because the work required patience. 78 hours from intercept to interdiction. And then the collection continued. At 9:14 a.m. Thursday, the monitored mobile number pair transmitted its 25th message. It was 6 lines. Common language, apparently personal. The automated system processed it against the updated baseline. 24 messages now, not 23. In 38 seconds. No statistical outlier above the alert threshold was detected. The message was queued at standard priority. The analyst, whose shift began at 9 a.m., would review it when she reached the queue. The channel was still running. The decoder key was still valid. The 31st month of collection on this network had begun.